Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm YK Swedish Whiskey Girl and today we're here with I think it's my favourite Highland Park that I've tried so far. It is this lovely Highland Park Twisted Tattoo. And you might already know what this is, the whiskey pouch. It's from a Whiskey Me subscription, which is about £7-8 a month. You get a dram in your mailbox. And this is of course not a collaboration with them, but I think it's a brilliant idea and I love these little pouches, which means that they can come through your letterbox and there's always something interesting. So far I've got the Glen Scotia Victoriana, 2 Bunnahavens, that's a little surprise, and this lovely Highland Park Twisted Tattoo. I already can't wait for what's coming next week. And of course if you want to use the referral code, mine is 4145. I said it wrong last time, but I'll put it up here somewhere so you can see what it is. So yes, today, Highland Park Twisted Tattoo. I might be speaking too soon, but from what I can remember the last time I had this was a whiskey that I really enjoyed. It had wonderful flavours and I loved the kind of concept of it. I of course love the storytelling behind whiskey, I love this history behind it, and I love this kind of world that it's made in and the craftsmanship and the weight for it. This is a 16-year-old, which of course, I mean, what did I do 16 years ago? Someone made this whiskey and I think that's incredible on its own. But this has also been matured in Rioja wine casks. And Rioja is of course a red wine. And these casks that they use, the wine casks, they are seasoned wine casks, and the other cask type they've used a lot of is first fill ex-bourbon. So 2 lovely cask types if you ask me. First fill bourbon tends to be one of my current favourites. If I see that on a bottle I'm like, I'm curious about you. And then wine casks, recently it would have been one of those that I'm like, not really sure. But lately I've discovered that a lot of my new favourite whiskies are from red wine casks, which just makes this more exciting. Highland Park is of course a Scotch whisky distillery located on an island called Orkney. Basically if you go up to the north of Scotland, you continue a little bit more out into the ocean, you get to Orkney. And I can't wait to go one day. It looks absolutely stunning. And another thing about this Highland Park Twisted Tattoo is they worked with a Danish tattoo artist who created kind of the design for the bottle. It has this black stunning design with this red kind of dragon on the front of it. And it's stunning. I wouldn't be surprised if their brand ambassador Martin Markvartsen has it somewhere on his body, because he's just like a walking Highland Park tattoo canvas, I would say. I always seem to talk about him when I talk about the Highland Park, but it's just because I think he's such a brilliant storyteller and yeah, incredible. But let's get to the whiskey. I can't now remember if I said what it sits at, but it sits at 46.7% ABV. So let's start with having a little nose. Yes, I do like this. I get a little bit giddy, I don't know why, it's just, I think I love when you've tried a whiskey before, you remember it as lovely, and you come back to it and you're like, it is lovely. Instead of going, oh that was lovely, and then you go back to it and you're like, you know what I mean. But let's see if I can pick out any aromas on this. It's the sweetness is what hits me the first. It's like sugary berries on leather, maybe, along with like honey. Highland Park is of course known for having a honey character to it, so I don't know if it's just that I know that's Highland Park, but it does have this kind of sticky sweetness with the kind of, but it's almost like the berries have like icing sugar, so it's like, because the berries on its own can sometimes be a little bit sour. So if you put icing sugar in with it, it just makes them sweeter. That's how it works in my brain. And then they're on leather because it gives it kind of earthy, intriguing notes. And then you also have the honey sweetness, which is this dense sweetness that is its own aroma. It's like oranges maybe. And a bit of like, if you have a really fruity perfume, and some milk chocolate. It's interesting, and when I notice it, my brain just keeps going, is it this? And every time I'm like, oh, the word chocolate just popped up in my head, and I was chocolate. I was like, really? And then it went, yes, milk chocolate. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. And yes, this is where my crazy is showing. The voices in my head tell me things and I respond to them. That's how this works. It's so elegant. Like, it's... perfumed, honey, berries, slight leather, milk chocolate, and I mean, it's a stunning nose. I'm so happily surprised that my memory serves me right, because sometimes it doesn't. Because sometimes when you have a whiskey, you might have had 5 drams before it, but this, yeah, like it. Okay, let's have a taste instead. Slanjava. It still has that honey sweetness. A bit of a malty note. That leathery note as well, but it's quite gentle on the palate. Like, quite easygoing. But the malty note that mixes in with the leather is kind of what lingers on your palate. Still a kind of berry note. Like a blackberry, probably. I think the oakiness mixed with the honey character makes it very enjoyable, because sometimes when I find oak in a whiskey and it's not accompanied by something else, it makes it slightly dry and almost a bit tough. Sometimes robust is really good. Really loud seagulls outside my window. I don't know if you can hear them. If you can, I'm sorry. But what I was saying is that oakiness, there's of course different kind of ways of it, like seeing oakiness. So if it's too dry and too tough, it's almost a bit like, I get a bit taken back with it, and I'm like, it's almost like a challenge to drink it. But this, because it's balanced up by these other flavors, makes it more interesting and more, like when it hits me, I'm like, oh, nice. Instead of going a bit chewy and a bit that kind of dry toughness. And by that kind of, the leatheriness goes to some sort of bonfire note. I wouldn't say necessarily that's smoky, but it's just a bonfire, big warming note. A bit of cinnamon spice. It leaves a kind of drying sensation. Interesting. I would say it's quite different on the nose to the palate, because the nose is so much sweeter. But I'm going to do a little experiment and add some water just to see if it changes anything. Here we go. The nose feels pretty much the same. Yeah, I'd say pretty much the same. Maybe a little bit more perfumed. Yeah. Yes, it's fruitier now. It's more similar to what it is on the nose, which I think I enjoy slightly more, just because that the thing I got on the nose was so wonderful, and then I tried on the palate and it was slightly too malty almost. Even though I think it was a lovely whiskey the way it was, The reason I wanted to add some water was to see if I could bring up the balance between the oakiness and the fruitiness. I still think if you like oakiness, you're gonna love where it sits without the water. But the balance for me, it might just be today, I might be in a really fruity mood, but it's a gorgeous whiskey with or without the water. But I think today I've done this with several whiskies, so I've recorded a few others today and I've added water to those. I've been so pleasantly surprised, so maybe it's just one of those days, because usually when a whiskey sits nicely where it is, I don't feel the need to add water. But if something's slightly off or I'm just experimental, I think today I'm not looking for off notes, but I'm just feeling experimental and just add a little bit and you see what it's like. But it could also be that I recently really appreciated whiskies that have been sitting at 40% ABV. I know that's controversial sometimes, but it's cask strength whiskey is lovely. And it sits usually at this point where it's really exciting and you get the chance to really add water in your own pace, see what you like, see what changes, see what happens. But I feel like some 40-year-old whiskey gets really kind of discarded before people try it, because it might sit nicely at 40. For most people, 40% ABV is quite high. Like drinking vodka at 40% ABV, it feels quite strong if you're not used to it. But I think a lot of people look at 40% and think that's bad. So I think what's the spark in my whiskey heart went, people don't like 40% whiskey, so I'm gonna love 40% whiskey and just look for really brilliant examples of whiskey that sits at 40%. You know how I love an underdog. But so adding water to whiskey that's higher than 40%, seeing what happens, has been a really kind of fascinating thought of mine lately. But this just comes and goes. So for a while I was so into sherried whiskies, and now recently bourbon matured whiskey's been really fascinating. Now it might be red wine finishes or influences and lower ABV just to see what happens. I know this is a little bit of a rant, I'm sorry. I just want to say that you enjoy whatever you wanted. If you love cask strength whiskies one week and you don't the next week, it's okay. Just do whatever you want. I can't stress it enough. Drink whiskey whatever way you want it. Has those kind of perfumed flavours on the palate as well. The maltiness is still there. The leather note is this lovely base of it. It just lifts some of those more subtle tropical fruits like peaches and apricots and oranges, I would say. A stunning whiskey. I really like it. Yeah, I'm gonna be enjoying this one. Good thing it's 50 and not 25 in these little pouches. So I can have another sip of it. But I would of course love to hear what you think of Highland Park Twisted Tattoo. Is it one of your favourite whiskies? Is there another whiskey from Highland Park that is your favourite perhaps? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please put them in the comments below. And of course, if you like what I'm doing on YouTube or my other social channels, I would of course be absolutely thrilled if you would consider using my affiliate links with Master Malt, the Whiskey Exchange, or the Scotch Malt Whisky Society the next time you're shopping with them. Every little really helps, and I really want to be able to grow my business and share more of these wonderful whiskies with you. And of course, hopefully soon get tastings going again if tourism will come back to Edinburgh. But all of that information is in the description below, as well as links to my website, my Patreon, my Teespring shop, and my Instagram. A massive thank you to my wonderful supporters on Patreon. Thank you so much for wanting to continue to support me on my whiskey journey. It really means so much. But I hope you all had an absolutely wonderful day. Slán Skål.